Hello everyone, my name's Lockie and today I'm going to be attempting to solve this Rubik's Cube here in less than 1 minute. So the very first step we have to do is get a cross at the top. In this case I'm using green as the top. So what you want to do is get a green cross along the top and make sure the middle pieces align correctly with the colour underneath them. So yellow should be underneath yellow in the middle there, and then orange underneath orange. Once this is done, you just have to get the corner pieces in the correct spot, which just can be done pretty easily with some simple movements. So that concludes the first step, and once you've done that, the cube should look like this. All the bottom pieces should be the correct color and on the right face, and the green side should be complete. So next we want to get the corner pieces in between the center colors like that, and this is step 2. So you just have to do this for each one. Then once this step has been complete, we move on to the top, and we want to get a blue cross, so this is the third step, and there we go. And then once that's done, we want to make sure these middle pieces are in the right spot. So we do step 4, which is this, to make sure that we keep the blue cross and have the colors in the right spot corresponding to the middle ones. And then once this is done, we'll move on to step 5, which keeps the corner pieces in the right spots but moves all the other ones once in a counterclockwise way, so then it'll look like this at the end. And then the final step is just right inverted, right down, and that should move the blue pieces to the top while keeping the rest in a good condition. Here I got 3 8 moves, which is lucky. Like, you can either get 8 or 6. Oh no, 16, sorry. And there I got 3 8s, so that was pretty lucky. And there we go. So moving on to the steps and probability. What I do is do these first 2 steps as if it's 1. So you do the green cross first and then do the corners next. But I don't really use that method, I just sort of can do it by myself. And then once I've done that, we move on to this step, which moves all of the pieces on the top into the corner. So for example here, that red and yellow one moves in between the red and yellow middle pieces, and then we just do that for the rest of them, and we need to make sure we use the right pattern for the certain tile. Next we have the top blue cross, and we either get just one or a line or a right angle, and depending on which one you get sort of depends how many times you have to do it. If you just get one, you got to do it 3 times. If you get the right angle, you got to do it twice, and if you get the line, you got to do it once. And once we've done that, which is pretty simple, we move on to this step. Now this one basically turns the other 3 pieces. Like, say we want to keep the red, it'll turn the other 3, so we can use this to manipulate where we want to put them. And so it only takes once or twice to get it right, normally once. Now the second last step keeps one of the pieces in the correct position and then turns the other 3. So here it keeps the red, yellow and blue one in the right spot and turns the other 3. This normally only needs to be done once or twice. And then moving on to the final step, this is just your simple right inverted, right down. If you get lucky, you only have to do that pattern twice, and yeah, then you've solved the cube. I'm going to be moving on to my personal times and if I can possibly do it in a minute or less, and what the chances of that happening are. Alright, so basically stage 1 is steps 1 and 2, and overall I averaged 31 moves, and that took me roughly 30 seconds to get the whole green face and all of the top layers in the right colors corresponding to the middle one. Alright, so in this stage, this is step 3. There is a 1 in 4 chance of getting one of the blocks already in the right spot, and if that would have happened, that would take 8 moves off the total. So theoretically I could do this stage in only 24 moves, which would be roughly like 16 seconds total, and that is pretty low. Moving on to stage 3, this is step 4 in the book. I figured out that basically there's a 1 in 16 chance of getting the worst thing and the best thing, so it's like a 5% chance of me not even having to do anything and just completely skipping this step. But a quarter of the time you get the right angle, which takes 10 moves, and that's roughly 5 seconds onto the total. Moving on to the next stage, stage 4. This stage is step 5 in the book, and this is whether or not the middle pieces are in line with their correct color. So there's a 1 in 6 chance of having 0 moves again, that's another 0 seconds. 1 in 6 chance of having to do 16 moves, so doing it twice. But 75% of the time you got to do the single moves, which only takes about 5 seconds. Stage 5, I'm not even sure if this is correct because it was really weird to figure out. There's a 1 in 24 chance, I think, of it being just all of the blocks being in the right spot, so that's 0 seconds, but majority of the time one of them's only in the right spot, so you got to do 8 moves, which adds about 5 seconds to the total. And the final stage is the right inverted down inverted right inverted down, and this one here is very lucky. So basically getting this can either range from 64 moves, which would be the worst thing that can happen, all the way down to just 0 moves, which is just being it done, but that would never happen. So I sort of came to a very rough conclusion that a quarter of the time this last step is going to take me less than 10 seconds, because if I have 2 that's already done and 2 that need 8 moves and 16 moves, that can be done in less than 10 seconds. So here is the final results, and I don't know if you can read in the bottom right corner, but that is theoretically the quickest way I could possibly do it. 1 in over 350,000 of me getting a 40-second time using this method, so it's definitely possible to get sub a minute. This is my calculations for the sub a minute, 1 in 3,660, but that is including the first step being really bad. So if I take out that first 1 in 10 chance of getting a good first run and just hoping all of my first runs are good, it takes it down to a 1 in 388 chance. So overall there's a 1 in 388 chance of me getting a sub a minute time. So here have been my times over the past 2 weeks. I started with a 146 back in the 16th of November, and then I lowered it the next day to 133. And then after that, it took me a good 10 days to get underneath that, 130. And then just the other day, I got a 117. That is my quickest. And that was really lucky. So to get sub a minute, I'm going to have to grind it out.